Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have returned to League Unlock as the LCS Power Ranking Countdown continues. And if you carried over some of the rosters from 2019 specifically, and everybody has made their huffs and puffs about the Dignitas changes that they did or didn't do. Well, they did a lot of changes, but if you had just brought Clutch, the exact same team from Worlds, as your as the third seed, if you brought them right back into 2020, absolutely a playoff team where you're probably talking about them top 4, even with all the roster changes and all the crazy things that happened around with all the other teams. You're still talking about Clutch in that top 4 area. Instead, everybody but Huni is out for Dignitas, and a whole lot of question marks come, and this is where things get a little bit crazy when you do these preseason rankings. It starts at number 8 with Dignitas, and basically teams 8 to 5. If you were doing these tier lists, these would be your B teams, but we're not doing that. We're going team by team, and these, again, 8 to 5, hardly separated, but Dig comes in at number 8 because there's just so much volatility with this roster. Of course, it all starts with Huni. Are we going to get late summer World Championship Huni, or are we going to get spring and early summer? Because if you get spring and early summer, 8 might be generous for where this roster is going to end up. But if he looks like a top 3 top laner again, and Froggen continues to be maybe the most reliable mid laner in the LCS for consistency, then this is definitely going to be a playoff team. If Aframu can find his former MVP levels, okay, they're getting a whole lot better. Johnson lives up to the hype, terrific. And Grig, who might be the biggest question mark on this roster, more than Huni, more than Johnson, who has never played a single game on the LCS stage. Grig his career path is so interesting because he just is all of a sudden inserted into the starting lineup for TSM when Mike Young doesn't work. For an already hyped up roster, all of a sudden there's an incredible amount of pressure on him to perform, not just as a playoff team, but TSM, remember this is still early 2018, they have World Championship aspirations, and to immediately be thrown into that fire was completely unfair for him. There was so many issues with that TSM roster behind the scenes, and then of course the 2019 split goes on where those issues continue even with more roster changes. There's coaching staff issues, Reggie stepping in, and he was never really in an environment where he could thrive. I hope his career wasn't completely derailed. Well, obviously it wasn't, because he signed with Dignitas, and now he has the opportunity to kind of get rid of that bad taste in his mouth that was left from Team Solo Mid, and people love to meme about his mechanics, but this guy is still always near the top of the solo queue ladder, and we know his communication is great. Maybe he speaks too often, but he, in big contrast to a roster like Immortals, he has some serious lanes to play through. We don't know what you're going to be dealing with Johnson and Afro. I can't imagine them immediately coming in and dumpstering a lot of these bot lanes in North America. But Huni and Froggen are absolutely lanes that Grig has the opportunity to play through. And we know he already experienced camping mid lane a lot when he played with Bjergsen. Froggen's might not be as aggressive, but his laning numbers are pretty solid and have been since he came back to the LCS. And Huni is always going to be ahead of his own river pushing forward, whether or not he's 3-0 or 0-3. So Grig, maybe a safe bet to just be hovering around that top side of the map when you are on this Dig roster. And it remains to be seen how well this organization is going to be run. They lost some coaches, obviously, heading into this year. Everything is different. Don't compare this team to Clutch at all, which is, again, too bad because they had such a great run to close out 2019. It's just Huni with Dignitas, and this, like Immortals, is a team that has the branding history and will have the fan base. Immortals made Worlds in 2017. Dignitas hasn't made Worlds since Season 2. We're talking 2012. And even Froggen is a guy who does not have that playoff pedigree since he has come over to North America. We're half a decade removed from Froggen of EU, where he was MVP level and one of the best mid laners in that region. He still is a top tier mid in North America, but he hasn't had that playoff success that we were accustomed to seeing out of him for the first 4 years of his career. So it's looking redemption for Froggen and Afro getting back to that playoff stage. Afro didn't get there throughout all of 2019. But there's a lot to be proved with this Dignitas roster and the fluctuation. They could be the 8th best team. They could maybe even be as high as 4th, depending on what level we see players like Afro and Huni performing at. But we have to put them at number 8 just because... And it's very close. 8th sounds bad. That's 3rd worst team in the league, but it's so close between numbers 8 and 5 that you could really argue and make a case for any of them swapping or fluctuating 4 different positions up this leaderboard. That's what makes preseason power rankings so fun. You can't just clump them all into Group B. You got to do number by number by number by number. And Dignitas, for now, for us in the preseason, comes in at number 8.